Hi, my name is Ty Williams, and I am a graduate student getting my master's in counseling psychology at Angela State University, and I'm currently doing practicum at the um, counseling services center on campus. And so today we're going to be talking about boundaries. So just to kind of start off, we're going to be talking about what boundaries are. I know most people think of boundaries as a kind of a limit or a line that marks the limit of an area. But when we're talking about boundaries in terms of psychology or interpersonal relationships, it's kind of more of a conceptual limit, as you can see on the screen, between you and another person. And it doesn't always mean like, please don't step this close to me. It can have to do with all kinds of things. They don't have to just be physical. So the kind of bigger boundary domains would be physical, sexual, intellectual, emotional, and financial. So physical is going to have to do with your body, privacy, personal space. So kind of the example that I just gave of please, don't step into my personal bubble, or please ask me before you give me a hug. Please knock before you enter my room, those kind of things. For sexual boundaries, those are going to be expectations concerning intimacy. So maybe stating, I don't feel comfortable holding hands in public, or I don't feel comfortable showing, like doing PDA, kissing one another in public. I don't feel comfortable having sex. I don't feel comfortable doing oral, but I'm okay with kind of taking it slow, seeing where it can go. So those are kind of going to be your sexual boundaries. Intellectual, those are going to be the ones that have to do with your thoughts and beliefs. So, I mean, as human beings, we're all going to have our own different kind of viewpoints on everything. And so intellectual boundaries can actually tie in with emotional boundaries and all of the other ones. But it's really kind of just stating one's belief, and then also kind of respecting that other people are going to have different beliefs and not pushing our own beliefs on someone else, maybe. And then for emotional ones, or emotional boundaries, those are going to deal with one's feelings and emotions altogether. So, kind of stating, when you say things like that to me, it makes me sad. But in terms, we're going to kind of talk about this a little bit later, but it would be better if we use I statements for something like that. So maybe when I hear those kind of things, I get sad. So really kind of expressing your own emotions and feelings about a situation or about a boundary that is being crossed. And then financial has to do with money and finances. And so now we'll kind of move on into the three types of boundaries. So we've got porous boundaries, which are weak or poorly expressed and are unintentionally harmful. So it's kind of sometimes some common ones could be the inability to say no, people pleasing, oversharing, or codependency. And so I know a lot of times we may view boundaries as allowing other people to cross our own limits, but with oversharing, we may be crossing other people's limits, or we just may not have an idea of what is an appropriate amount of information to give to someone, like maybe when you first meet them. And then codependency. Codependency could be, say I call my best friend every single time I'm upset about something, and I am dependent on her kind of keeping me afloat, talking me off that ledge, really grounding me. So maybe I'm not able to do that on my own because I know that she will always be there to do it for me. The inability to say no, so that could say, hey, can you help me out at 2 p.m. today? Someone who has porous boundaries may feel very bad saying no, and so instead of saying, I'm sorry, I already have a prior obligation, they may say, sure, yes, I can help you, and then they end up being double booked, which makes things harder on themselves. For rigid boundaries, this is kind of shown when people have boundaries. They have boundaries, but they are stating them in a way that is so harsh that people are not going to ask again. So maybe instead of saying, for example, if someone were to ask you, can I borrow that pencil? Someone may say, oh, I'm sorry, like this is the only pencil I have, and I want to make sure that I don't lose it. That could be a way, that could be an example of a healthy boundary. Someone with a rigid boundary may cuss you out and say, why would you ever ask me that? So it's kind of building up those walls to keep other people out as a way of keeping yourself safe. This could also be represented by maybe like isolating yourself or just never sharing with anyone, kind of just ghosting people when we feel uncomfortable and not really stating what makes us feel uncomfortable. So the goal is to get to healthy boundaries, which can be described or seen as being clear about our values, listing our own opinion, sharing with others appropriately. So again, not oversharing, but not never sharing, and then being comfortable saying no. So on to the next thing is how to set better boundaries. So we kind of just talked a little bit about what they are, but now let's get into how to set them and what to do if our boundaries are ever crossed. So when we're communicating boundaries, boundaries can apply to almost any and everything. And I know that was kind of interesting for me to learn when I first learned about boundaries. So I've got 6 little categories or groups or situations that it can kind of apply to, and I'm going to give you guys an example of how to set boundaries for those specific things. So regarding boundaries regarding one's time, so again, kind of we could use the one that I just used about maybe double booking yourself or overcommitting to something. So regarding one's time, we may say, if you're going to be late, please give me a heads up, or if I can grab lunch with you, but I can only stay for an hour. So you're stating what you can do, but your limit is an hour, maybe just because you have someone to be after that, or you need to study. You're letting them know, sure, we can hang out, but I have a lot of time that I can do it. Regarding one's mental capacity or the headspace that they're in. So, for example, maybe I'm the friend that everyone always calls all the time. If I'm not really in the headspace to help out someone else, maybe I've poured all that I have into everyone else and I don't have anything left for myself, then it's perfectly okay to say, oh, I'm sorry, like, unfortunately, I'm unable to help you right now in this situation, but maybe like this resource could. So maybe let's go to counseling services, or maybe let's go to Title IX or Ram Pantry or anything like that. Boundaries regarding one's personal space and physical comfortability. So again, I would love to get to know you and I'm attracted to you, but I think I feel more comfortable taking things slowly without feeling rushed. So that can be, kind of a nice way of stating, I do like you, but I don't think we're on the same page. Boundaries regarding topics of conversation. So maybe saying, I don't feel comfortable talking about that with you, or even saying, yes, that did happen, but I would rather keep it private, So I think when we initially think about boundaries, we think that they have to be very harsh and they have to be it can sound mean, but there are ways to say it where it doesn't have to sound that way. And then boundaries regarding one's occupation or commitment to others. So here, maybe we can say if a boss has asked us to come in early or to come in at 2 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon, we can set our boundary or state our boundary by saying, unfortunately, I am unable to come in, or unfortunately, I'm unable to get that to you tonight after hours, but I can get it to you first thing in the morning. Or if you're asked to come in on a weekend, so that one can kind of be used if it's after hours and you're being tasked with completing something that's going to take you longer than an hour, and maybe you're getting off in 20 minutes. Realistically, you wouldn't be able to accomplish it. So kind of just stating that, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get this to you by tonight, but I can get it to you first thing in the morning. Or if you are asked to come in on the weekends, stating your boundary with your own personal time and stating, I don't come in on the weekends because I reserve that time for my family, but I can definitely meet with you first thing on Monday morning. And then the last one is boundaries regarding other people asking for money. So maybe it's a family member or a friend, and they say, "Hey, I'm low on rent. I need $500 to pay my bill, to pay my bills." We can say, um, so you don't really want to apologize for it, but we just want to state what we're able to do, and not really give a whole bunch of explanation as to why we're unable to do it. So for this one, if someone says, "I'm low on rent, I need $500, maybe just simply stating, "I'm unable to give you the $500 that you're needing right now, but maybe I could help you find other resources that can, accommodate you in that way." Or if it's someone that you've given money to before, and they start to say, "Well, you've helped me before, why aren't you helping me now?" We can state, "I know that I've helped you in the past, but I'm just unable to accommodate that need right now." Um, so those are kind of some examples of how to communicate boundaries in an effective way, and a way that doesn't have to sound super harsh or super rigorous. And then here is kind of just a little breakdown of what you can do when boundaries are crossed. So there's actually an acronym, and it's Dear Man, but it is describe, express, assert, reinforce, mindful focus, appear confident, and negotiate. Um, so essentially, I'm going to leave it up so you all can read it, but essentially it's saying to explain what's bothering you, express what you're feeling and why it's bothering you using I statements. So again, we don't really want to say, "You shouldn't be doing this." And instead, we could say, "I feel uncomfortable when we are put in this situation." Um, that way it puts more into how you are feeling about what you're experiencing, as opposed to putting blame on what someone else is doing. And then, can we establish what we're wanting? So if it's if it's someone who is constantly overstepping or constantly not respecting our boundaries, we can kind of be a little bit more assertive. Again, not harsh, but kind of just state, "I would really like for you to kind of listen to me and really hear me out." Restate your boundary, remain focused on what your needs are. If you're confident with your body language and your tone, and then you can negotiate. So even though we are saying no, maybe to the people that we love the most in the world and the people that we want to help the most, it is important that we still remain focused on what we are needing in that moment. So I know I know I've helped you in the past, but unfortunately I'm just unable to help you right now in the way that you're needing. Or if you are talking to someone and they are constantly kind of like butting in, cutting you off, or giving you advice, you can even state, "I really appreciate the suggestions that you're giving me, but I think right now I think right now, um, what I'm needing is for someone to listen, and maybe we can talk about solutions later." Or even state, um, "That was a really creative idea that you just gave me. I really appreciate it. Um, but for now, could we kind of table that and talk about this? Maybe we can come back to that at the end." So again, when stating boundaries, we want to be clear and concise, and we want to use I statements. And again, it doesn't have to be super harsh. It can be a normal conversation that you're having with those around us. And I know that sometimes we often think, "Well, I don't want to tell them that because this is my mom, or this is my best friend, or this is my significant other, and I don't want to hurt their feelings." That is perfectly understandable. We are not trying to belittle them or completely invalidate or disregard what they are saying. So it's perfectly fine to say, "I hear you out. I completely understand where you're coming from, and I can understand why, you may feel the way that you do, but this is also the way that I feel, or this is kind of my view on that, and I don't need you to completely agree with me, but I'm just asking that you respect my point of view." And that kind of brings us to the end. If you are looking for resources, one really good book that I read specifically for boundaries is called Set Boundaries to Find Peace, and I have the author listed below. Another good book, I personally haven't read this one, but I know a lot of people have, and they speak very highly of it, is called Boundaries: When to Say Yes, When to Say No, to Take Control of Your Life. And then there are also 2 websites linked below on how to set better boundaries and what to do when they are crossed. So that wraps up this presentation. Thank you for listening.